Call the meeting to order. Good evening. Collins Quabbin Regional School Committee in order on Thursday, January 8th. 2026. No? I apologize. I got the other
Get it
side.
together, Mark, will you?
Okay, sorry. Oh, there we go. Call the meeting to order. Good evening. Thursday, February 12th, 2026, at 6:34 p.m. First item of business, would we have the statement regarding recording?
Good evening. This meeting will be recorded and will be posted to YouTube and other social media platforms. By participating in this meeting, you understand that the recording could contain your video stream or your audio stream, including images of yourself or anyone in the room with you, if you choose to enable your video or audio device during the meeting, as well as anything or anyone else that may be in the background could be recorded. The recording could include any opinions you contribute and anything you say about yourself. On occasion, chat within the meeting could also be captured in the meeting recording. Therefore, anyone attending the recorded meeting may have aspects of their personal data recorded if they actively participate or not.
Thank you. Roll call for attendance.
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Willanen?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly? Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Muck?
Yes.
Mr. Moncourt? Mr. Wickler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Here.
Mr. Nutter?
Here.
Ms. LaRange is not here. Mr. Chairman?
Here.
Ms. Reeves?
Here.
And Ms. Metcalf?
No one on Zoom?
Does not appear that way.
So no.
Nope.
Okay, good. First item of business on the agenda is the consent calendar. It's approval of minutes of January 8th, 2026. You have, as well as warrant approval. And there was donations of $100 anonymous donation from a St. Francis parishioner and 3 wholesome food gift cards from anonymous donor from St. Francis parishioner. Is there a motion to accept?
Accept.
Okay. And second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we don't have to do a roll call. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Two abstentions.
Two abstentions.
Dr. Allen and Peck. Okay. Next item is Student Advisory Council, and I know the first item is STEM program overview. Turn it over to the superintendent.
I don't know if Principal Ruby wants to introduce her team.
I would love to. So I'm happy to have some students here tonight to talk about a recent experience within our Project Lead the Way, one of our Project Lead the Way classes. I'm thrilled to have Andrew Kesey, our coach, with us, and he's going to introduce our students, and they're going to walk you through the experience that they had, a pretty cool and unique experience that they had in class. 2 months ago.
2 months, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we're excited to share that with you and have the students talk about their learning on that day. So we do have a slides presentation, which hopefully will open. If you guys can do it.
So I feel weird.
That's
with
okay.
my back to this. All right. So my name is Drew Giese. I'm the swim instructional coach for 6 through 12. And we had this event about 2 months ago, right before Christmas break. The students were working with the folks from 1-8 and Mass Learning Project and the pharmaceutical company Alanam. And we advanced. And so this opportunity was available to any of the high school students. We had about 20 students end up signing up for the event. And they came from a variety of places, but for the most part, they came from our Project Lead the Way and our Innovation Pathways courses. And so there's a high concentration of students that signed up for this event from our Principles of Engineering, our AP Computer Science, our Robotics, and our Cybersecurity courses. So I'm going to have the students talk in just a minute, but I wanted to introduce you to them. We have Kalina Dyer, Alyssa Ebert and Bertie Foucher here. And I just wanted to highlight this in particular at the beginning to talk about their current STEM courses. So this is not like what they've taken now that they're senior. They're actually taking, 4 or 3 STEM courses. So Kalina and Alyssa are taking Project Lead the Way, Principles of Engineering, AP Stats, and AP Physics. And Kalina's taking horticulture also, and Alyssa's taking chemistry. And Brody, who's a junior, is taking our Project Lead the Way computer science, AP computer science, AP calc, and chemistry, all at the same time. So I think that that's like a pretty important thing to kind of think about. It's not like this is what they took over 4 years. That's what they're currently taking. All right, so that's a rigorous course load. All right, we can go ahead. And so I wanted to point out that this event was not your typical school day. So this was a special event where the students were presented with a real problem under real engineering constraints. And it was a real industry with representatives from those companies that were speaking with our students and guiding them through this process. And so in terms of our timeline, there was a statewide kickoff where they picked their team name. I can't remember, what were your team names? One was really funny.
Something about llamas. I
You guys
forget
were-
what it was.
It was a play on the name that Alanam, the company, I think you guys were Annie Llama.
Yeah.
Do you remember yours?
I don't remember mine.
Okay, all right. They had to come up with names. They interacted a little bit with the facilitators, and there were 4,000 other students from across the state representing over 100 schools that were all participating in this at the same exact time. So then there was a kickoff. The students didn't know what the problem was. They were literally handed a sheet of paper. This is what the problem is from your company, and they had to get right to work. And so they had a work block where they came up with 3 ideas, and they were brainstorming to come up with ideas. They met with their mentor check-ins. We had 2 mentors, so you can kind of see one in the background here, and you'll see another one in the picture. We had two stations set up for the mentor check-ins, and they presented their 3 ideas at that first check-in. Then they kind of were told, well, maybe you should go after this one and refine it a little bit. And then they worked through another work block, another mentor check-in before they wrote up their final proposal. They made their final submission. And then there was a statewide closing, sort of a celebration and a thinking about futures in STEM careers. And we did work lunch in there somewhere too. Remember we ran down. You can go to the next slide, thank you. So the problem that our students had to solve, there were about 12 different companies, and this particular company, this was the problem that they presented to our group, is they make a $100,000 per dose injection that is given to patients every 3 months. And it needs to be shipped worldwide while keeping it really cold, keeping it safe because it's a $100,000 product. So you don't want any to break in shipping. And they also wanted to think about how the system that they came up with or they devised would be environmentally friendly and possibly reusable. So their big constraints that they were given was that temperature, keeping it pretty cold, cannot break it ever, being recyclable or reusable, and being cost effective. All right, we'll go to the next one. And so really during this day, they got to go through all the stages of the engineering process. And they started out looking at a problem. They did research together. They were in their groups looking up different insulation, looking at boxes, looking at the constraints that they were given. They brainstormed their different ideas and came together to make a plan for 3 different ideas. They started to draw out and write out those plans and then refine them with input from the mentors, redesigned what they had talked about with the mentor, and then eventually communicated what their final solution was to the company. All right, we can go on. And so what they were doing, and this has some of our other students, and again, here's the other mentor check-in. We had the 2 stations. These are some examples of the paperwork that they were filling out to make their diagrams. So they were reading technical specs that the company gave them in terms of the limitations of the boxes and the size of the syringes and the medication. They were researching possible materials to create this out of, to create their shipment out of. They were debating about sustainability and safety and costs. calculating the space needed. There were certain other parameters about how many they could ship in each container in terms of the number that need to go to hospitals and clinics. And then they were communicating professionally with their mentors throughout the day. We can move on. And so they really got to experience engineering under real constraints that the company provided. They get to do authentic research, think about sustainability, and think about careers that are connected to biotech. So these are actual problems from these companies. It's not like it was a made-up company. We were talking to people that work at the company as the mentors. So they had some insight into the product and what it does. And they really got to think about systems thinking, so thinking about things globally, who the end user is, who the doctors are, who's going to be unpacking this material. And they really got to spend a lot of time collaborating with professionals from outside the school. All right, so you can go on. So I just wanted now to give the students a minute to share out. And then if you folks have any questions for them, you're free to ask those as well. So I just told them to kind of think about what did they think of the Student Solve experience, what's been their favorite STEM courses because they've taken so many, and then of course what their future plans are. I know we have 2 seniors and 1 junior, but I know Brody is always thinking about his future plans as well. So please, Kalina, Alyssa, and Brody.
So I think, well, I love the Student Solve experience to start with. I think one of my favorite parts was just getting to talk to like real representatives that like work in that field. And then having the constraint, I think one of our biggest challenges, like Mr. Easy was saying, like the syringe that we were working with absolutely could not have broken. So it was packed into like 3 separate containers. So we kind of had to like work with all 3 of them. So there was like different layers of them. So I thought that was kind of cool, and getting to research stuff for the temperature controlled. We ended up using these like sheets, I forget what they were called. These like certain sheets that like essentially the temperature that the medicine would start at, heat couldn't come in nor come out. So whatever you put the syringe in the container at, that temperature was going to stay. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah, and what I really liked about it was that not only did it like allow you to apply like our engineering things that we're learning to a real world situation, but it also gave us the opportunity to like think about the factors that come into play in like sort of money and stuff like that you don't usually think about like in the classroom setting.
I think like in my computer science class, especially, in any of my engineering classes, they teach you not to think of a problem just, as one big thing, but one step at a time. And I think, you can often like disassociate with that, but like with this, you were able to, hands-on apply that thinking to something real with a real group of people in a real, real world situation, which I think that's a good opportunity to be able to experience.
I think they also like organized it very well so that like we kind of had a little bit of guidance, but we still had to like Brody said, like use our own skills that we've learned from different classes that we've taken and apply those to what we were doing instead of just like being taken step by step by step, My favorite STEM course at the moment is probably Principles of Engineering. My favorite STEM course I've ever taken was Computer Integrated Manufacturing, because we kind of learned how to, like the name says, like you learn how to use a computer within robots. But then we also learned about like manufacturing processes and how the factories and stuff work or like how the factories like run that produce the items that we use like every day. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, my current favorite is definitely Principles of Engineering as well. But overall, I think my favorite has been Makerspace, which was kind of like engineering, but it let you be more creative and like come up with your own ideas and like put art into it.
Mine is taking it right now, AP Computer Science Principles. I mean, it's a enjoyable class, and I think it's it's a comfortable environment for learning, and you learn in a fun way how to solve problems and how to make things and do things that you want to do.
Yeah, and then for future plans, I'm hoping to go into mechanical engineering in the fall. So these classes really helped me kind of get a sense of what type of engineering. That was what helped me narrow it down to what type of, and I chose mechanical.
I'm hoping to go to like the Air Force Academy for Space Force. I want to work on satellites. My main plan, I want to go in as a aerospace engineer. So what my major to be.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I'm kind of straying from STEM as much as I love it. I'm doing like sports media. I'm gonna go to college down south and work in that.
So there's a couple more slides. So I want to just talk a little bit really quickly about what's next at Quabbin. So for the 26-27 school year, we're introducing Principles of AI as a semester-based course. And that's going to be part of our Project Lead the Way computer science pathway. And it's really taking students from using AI as like a fun little game and sort of I use ChatGPT to really kind of thinking about prompts and prompt engineering, using it for modeling and brainstorming, and then thinking about the ethics behind AI usage and connecting what students are learning to where jobs are headed. So workforce relevance in terms of thinking about how AI is going to be used in STEM careers, in healthcare, and in industry in general. And then the other course that we're bringing on board to Project Lead the Way engineering pathway is a foundational course that is exploring engineering and the design process. The ones that they've taken in the past, the Principles of Engineering, is a little bit more math intensive. And this is meant to be sort of a, like I said, foundation course to getting students into that pathway of engineering and not waiting necessarily till their junior or senior year to find out about that as an option. And again, the application and bringing in math and science into one course. So students are seeing that what they're learning in their other classes apply in fields like biotech. And so they'll get to learn to use the 3D printers, the laser cutters, and they'll be solving real world problems as well. And then so the last slide is just thanking the companies that have been involved. So 1-8 and Mass Learning Project are sort of our go-to groups for Project Lead the Way. And they've helped support us. They send people out every once in a while to come do some observations. And we get a lot of advice from them in terms of thinking about courses for the future. And of course, Alum, the pharmaceutical company that had their 2 representatives, spent the day with us. And then Project Lead the Way. And so Abby was there to also support us throughout the day. We had myself, Mr. Bulger, and Mr. Youngberg were also in the room with the 20 students, helping them out and sort of helping navigate the process. We had Pam Chisholm, which helped with organizing the students, and Carol Ann Villanova did our photography for the day that you saw in the slideshow. All right, so I think that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Comments, Dr. Allen?
Yeah, well, I have a bunch. What was the shelf life? What was your solution? And I'm interested in your background. He was on the atomic submarines, for goodness sakes, before he came here. But it seems like the kind of program that you have helped establish for these kids or helped ongoing, it just sounds fabulous. It's education, it's in-depth, it's pertinent, it's looking to the future. This is terrific. You know, we don't want to be fighting the old stupid kind of which way does the flag go up the pole or dumb things like that. But education, looking out to the future, and that's great. So those are sort of the questions I have, and I just throw them out on the table.
I don't know that we learned the shelf life.
I can talk about that, but
Yeah, I don't know that we learned that. But our solution ended up being, like I said, it had to go into like many different boxes. So the design that they had already, it was just in a regular cardboard box. And then it was in like almost the thing that like your like steak or stuff would get shipped in if you order it online, like that like styrofoam box.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? And they used like gel freezer packs. And then it came in this little like plastic box for the actual syringe to go in. So it was in this like 3-step process. So we kind of kept that 3-step process. We kept the cardboard box, 'cause cardboard is decomposable. And then that styrofoam, which, but then instead of using the gel packs that had the plastic around them and then the gel that we learned wasn't great for the environment on the inside, we used those sheets like I talked about. I can't remember what those sheets were
I think it
called.
was called aerogel.
Aerogel.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it was very thin and very lightweight and
Yeah.
then better for the environment. It was like almost like 90%.
95%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like very cost effective. It didn't cost too much. And then we kept that original syringe like tin because again, it couldn't, there was like absolutely no way that it could break. Like it could not break. That was like the biggest thing because it's so expensive that if it broke, it would be a big loss for them as a company. So we kept that original tin to keep the actual syringe in. So really what we changed was the gel packs because we learned that those were really, really bad.
So we identified the problem that like they were kept in, each of the syringes were kept in a, plastic container, like individually, and they ended up taking a lot of space up in the cardboard box and whatever, and it was non-recyclable, and that's the main problem we identified, and we just replaced it with a recyclable material. I can't remember the name, like it's something kind of like paper mache kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember that we also researched something like
Yeah.
that. It was something made out of like seaweed, I think that we researched, but it was still being developed, so that's why we didn't use it, but.
A couple of
was like
groups
very
we're
eco-friendly.
looking at,
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds really simple, but almost like what's the like egg cartons are made out of in terms of that cardboard. Because you could mold it to the shape that you wanted and it's biodegradable.
Yeah,
and
they
things
also
like
make
that.
stuff out of like cornstarch and
Yeah.
like they make a ton of like decomposable things like that we looked into, I remember.
So a little bit about the product, in terms of that temperature issue is that it's a biologic injection. So it's not a regular like chemical compound. It's actually a RNAi, which is involved in literally RNA interference. So it disrupts RNA from turning into a protein because this particular medication targets what's called amyloidosis, and which can affect your heart. And so that's a misfolding of the protein. And so they're actually putting in something to prevent the protein from accumulating, which can cause neurological type pain and cardiac failure. And so that's part of the constraint for that particular product. Because it's a biologic, it had to be kept cold and because it will degrade. It's literally like an RNA strand of molecules. Like if you look at the drug insert, if you've ever seen like a DNA or RNA molecule, that's what the strand is. That's what the actual injection is. And so it's getting in the way during a pathway in the cellular process. And so that's part of why they had to keep it cold. In terms of the shelf life being a biologic, I think it's about 6 months to a year in terms of how long it lasts. But if it goes above that temperature, it degrades right away because it's like a DNA, RNA. It's RNA, but it is a biologic protein, essentially, what's going to be a protein. And so, yeah. A little bit of my background, you asked really quickly. I have been, this is my 4th year as the STEM instructional coach for grades 6 through 12. And prior to that, I was a chemistry, anatomy, biology, and physics teacher, whatever people wanted me to kind of teach over the last 10 years. And then in a previous life, I worked in public health and I went to UMass Medical School in my 20s. And so I've had a couple of transitions in terms of that, but fell in love with education like in my early 30s. And ever since then, it's been that pathway for me.
Well, thank you for doing that. Final comment. I'm sponsoring at UMass School of Ed, the policy group, the theme this year is AI. So obviously, Colleen, I save seats, make sure we requirement. You may want to have, some people associated with that course that might be.
Want to attend.
I don't have the date yet. I
Okay.
think it's in April, but when I find out, I'll let you know. I need to talk to Schneider, the guy that's doing this, to tell them my thoughts and ideas and so forth, but you've been to some of these these policy or some policy group things, and so
Great,
Good.
it just may be of some use,
Yeah.
given the course that you're going to be.
terrific.
Me, then Walter.
Yeah, and I think it's great that what you're doing, and part of, I think it's a great thing for us to do is, so students who usually are just studying, I guess I call it in the abstracts, that they could get an A in calculus or an A in physics, but really, what does that mean in the scheme of their life? So when you put them in a situation where there's a collaborative effect, where they can take the knowledge, not just from high school, but they've taken all the way up and figure things out with other students, I think that's a great thing. It allows them to translate that, hey, this course was worth something, or everything I've learned the last 3 years is great because now I can do real world stuff with it. And then also, this is a great springboard if y'all are going, or any of you are going to engineering school, because in the engineering schools, a lot of the coursework is collaborative. I know at WPI, their senior year, it's a 1-year project and it's a final grade, and you're collaborating with 6 or 7 other students. And I think the engineering schools are doing something like that. So, you guys are getting like a nice springboard to do this stuff. And I know I see just 3 of you here, to see 30 of you here that, doing that same type of thing. But I just think that's a great thing.
And they all, when they were collaborating with each other in their small groups, before they're talking to their mentor, they're all bringing a different background and a different course. And so it's not like they all just studied the same lecture in their physics class and now we're all applying the same exact thing. They were all coming at it from different angles and had to figure that out amongst each other. And they were able to do research and things like that. And different people, went down one path and then another, and then they had to come back together to make their designs and things like that. So it really is a great program.
I know another piece of that too for me is like hands-on stuff. I feel as though I learn a lot better when I'm hands-on. So like courses like Principles of Engineering or like Computer Integrated Manufacturing, like I'm always doing something hands-on pretty much every class. We're either working with robots or we're trying to solve some problem that we're given, or I think that hands-on aspect, as well as like working with a group while doing that, is like big for me personally, at least.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Pretty simple question. How did you do your research? I mean, internet, AI, papers?
We did it. We had our Chromebooks and we looked up online with our groups, and we found, whatever we found online that could solve the problem. We bounced it back and forth within our group and, use that to solve the problem.
I also think like more of being able to bring stuff from other classes into this challenge. We learn a lot, not even just in STEM courses, but just in school in general, like learning how to figure out if a source is like reliable or not. So I think that we all, for the most part, definitely use that while trying to do research.
Nice, thanks.
And 2 of their great engineering and computer science teachers there too, to kind of bounce ideas off of and things like that as well. And everybody was really helpful.
So with the bringing together all of the different ideas and people coming from different areas, whenever you're collaborating or you're building something, there's a lot of trying to manage some form of conflict in a respectful way. I hear your idea, I want to go this way. How did your groups deal with that, bringing 5 or 6 or how many of your groups were, everybody different ideas to come out with one cohesive?
In our engineering class, for instance, we learned this thing called the decision matrix. So we make a list of criteria that we want our solution to meet, and then we list all of our different ideas, and we just go through as a group and determine like what score we're going to give each idea for that criteria, and then whatever idea has the most points, that's what we're going to go with.
Yeah. Or sometimes like even while doing that, we'll be like, oh, this is a good idea, but what if we combine it with this and we make them like one cohesive thing? I feel like that happens more times than not, for sure.
I mean, I think we just, we weighed out the pros and cons of each option and kind of weighed, to a more objective way, which was the better option and which ones are more valuable to go down and which ones are maybe more not worth the time.
And that was part of the mentor feedback too, was to help them with that direction and sort of be like, okay, these are your three ideas. I think this one's the most feasible type of idea or this, this pathway. And so then they could refine that and kind of go back to the table. And which I really liked because it wasn't like you have a week to come up with a solution. It was like today we're doing this and we're gonna, go forward with it. And like I said, it was kind of cool to see like at the end, I think it was at the end where they started showing all the different schools, like they were like popcorning around and everybody was like celebrating and showing their designs on, and so it was great. Yeah.
Great. Anyone else? Any questions or comments? Just real quick, how many syringes were in a box? I mean, a container?
6.
How many?
Yeah, I
So
think
they-
it was like 10.
Yeah, there's 10. So there was, one in a box, like a tray.
Yeah,
And then they ship them in units of 10
it's 10.
to hospitals and clinics, to like the endpoint physicians and nurses and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had to think about that. They gave them the dimensions, like I didn't show everything, but they gave them the dimensions of everything, the examples of the syringes, things like that, so that they could see what they were packing. So yeah.
I remember they went in the tray and then they went in like a smaller box and then they all slotted it into that big cardboard box that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So you had to figure out the shipping as well? How did you get that? That's a lot of money in that box, in that container, hoping it's not gonna break. How did you end up shipping it?
So we didn't like necessarily go over that, but I do remember we talked to our mentor about that. They fly it, well, it depends where it's going.
Yeah.
So like it goes to all different parts of the world. So if it's like really far, they fly it. And then I think they kind of just dry, it's like a normal package, but obviously it's like not like your Amazon package.
You didn't.
There's like high security on the back.
You didn't have to factor that cost out or?
No, but we did talk about it. It was brought up.
And we talked a little bit about the cost.
Inside that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about the cost of the product itself, and then we talked a little bit about the research and design that goes in and the 15 to 20 years that goes into making that product and how rare of a disease it was. And so, they put billions of dollars because we're all kind of like $100,000 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Like that's an expensive drug. But at the same time, they invested billions to get that to market. And so they're recouping their end too. But yeah, pretty novel therapeutic though, something that really was not treatable until RNAi until they came up with that in early 2000s. So
Pretty amazing.
Not only real life opportunities for what a company wants to do in their product and everything else for health and safety, but then the challenges that incorporated in that, and then the cost, and then lastly, the systems. You mentioned the systems thinking. So you realize that, okay, here's the problem, but it involves a lot more than just 2 people or 8 people in a lab to come up with this. So great.
no, just because their company has thousands of employees
Right.
to come up with
Yeah.
one thing. Yeah.
We tend to do that a lot in our classes too. Like Kalina was talking about the decision matrix. That's often like the topics that we're weighing like certain designs on. So like we talk about cost a lot and we talk about like effectiveness, reliability, like all that stuff. So we were kind of used to having to keep that stuff in mind when we went into this. So
Great. Well done. Thank you. So we're just waiting for Alicia to get on. You all set?
Just to know, Ella, this is gonna be a tough act to follow. You're next up.
Okay, Ella and Anna.
Right. So, as you guys know, we've been doing course selection pretty recently. And with course selection comes the talk of there's a lot of classes, especially like AP Computer Science A and the Spanish HLs especially, that there's question if they're going to run because just of lack of students signing up for them. But those are courses that I'm personally interested in and I'd like to take. And there's been a lot of conversation around students about the VHS program exactly and what exactly happened to that. And if there's a possibility to get it back, maybe not for next year, but the year after, because that was a really great opportunity. And especially with these courses in question that might not run, but that student like I want to take, especially when colleges are going to look at my transcript. So I was just wondering what the deal was with that.
I'd answer that at this moment.
I can help you with that. It's a great question, and it's why we do course selection so early, so we can identify some of those things. So I can answer the VHS question. So previously, Governor Haley, that was something she prioritized in her budget. I can tell you when her budget released, it is not there. So like last year, there was zero funding for it. There's zero funding for it this year. It doesn't mean that the House and Senate may not bring that back, but it's unlikely that that's going to happen. In regards to your HLIB courses, so I actually have been speaking with IB to see if there's a possibility. They do have virtual offerings for those programs, if there's a possibility of getting some of those courses to our students. So we are looking into things for you, Ella, I promise.
Okay.
But the numbers, from what I hear from Principal Rigney and Assistant Principal Gilmartin, are pretty tiny for some of those classes. So, but we're still in process. You never know what's going to happen, but yeah.
And you like to do it early, like
Yeah.
you said.
Yeah.
To see what it looks like, to see what we can do.
Yeah.
Now, on the VHS, we did have those courses and we paid for it over the years. And then it changed when the state had a grant for us to be able to do it, right?
Yeah, the state offered all of the STEM courses for VHS for free.
So that's now no longer
No,
on the state level at this moment.
yeah, AP courses, AP STEM courses, correct, yeah.
On the opposite end of that, I have noticed a lot of other classes being added to the course selection, especially for the IB diploma candidates. I'm noticing more, I think there is an IB math option for those students who need those requirements for their diploma candidacy. And I'm trying to think, there was one class that I was interested in because I'm trying to find out ways to, as a junior going into my senior year, trying to find ways to round out my transcript, thank you. And there was a art for the theater, which sounded very interesting, which I'm interested in taking. And I'm in AP Physics 1 currently, and I believe they're going to try to run AP Physics 2 next year, and if not, the next year, but they're trying to get AP Physics 2 as an option for the courses. But there's definitely been an expansion in IB courses. And also, should I talk about
Yes.
Okay. For the lunch schedule, I'm only in third lunch now because the lunch is switched out with a semester switch. And so I'm in third lunch all week long. And I typically bring my lunch from home, but I have noticed that when I get school lunch, a lot of the options that were in lunches 1 and 2 run out for third lunch. And they're often trying to like scrap together different meals based on what they have left in the first 2 lunches.
Leftovers.
Yes. Well, not leftovers because it's still a meal, but
They'll pull out the waffles from over there.
I'll be like,
Like French toast.
It's for your chicken.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there's no
Which is so
chicken.
important.
It is.
Mhm.
I always look
It's left.
We will relay that back.
Okay.
And it was, I know that at the change of the semester, we did the third lunch, correct? Or did we have a prior to that?
It was prior to that.
Okay.
With the schedule change, I used to be in first lunch for one half of the week and third lunch for the second half, but now I'm in third lunch the whole week. So I've just noticed it more.
So you
I
pack
see.
a lot more.
Yes.
Can I just respond to Anna's? So last year, you remember, we presented some of the phase 1 of trying to combine our IB courses with our AP courses. That's exactly what Anna's talking about. And so we'll know this year if that works, if we have an increased number of students taking the higher level courses, because it sort of combines the AP and IB students together. So I'm really looking forward to seeing your numbers when course registration is all over.
It's definitely also the separation between the IB and the AP students, because there's students like typically Ella and I lean towards the AP classes, but then for the IB diploma candidates, they are physically required to take those classes. And there's the theory of knowledge class, which is an elective that they're required to take. So I've taken some of the classes that the IB diploma candidates take, and I've also taken AP classes, so I kind of get the best of both worlds, and I'm trying to fit both into my schedule, which is
I'm primarily an AP student just because, especially the schools that I'm looking at, they consistently prioritize AP classes over IB classes. Some schools don't mention IB at all. And some schools do, but they mention it as an afterthought almost, especially at like when I went to MIT, they were like, yeah, just prioritize those APs and stuff like that. So that's kind of why I've gone the route that I have, just in terms of what colleges are looking.
Ella, do you mind if I ask you a question? So many schools like WPI will also give credit for PLTW courses. Are you seeing that? Have you heard that from any of the schools you've looked at?
No, actually, but I have toured WPI and I didn't hear it there, so it could be possible. But a lot of the schools that I'm looking at, I kind of doubt it. Not that I think it's a great program, like I'm in PLTW classes, but yeah.
Make sure you ask.
I will.
Dr. Allen?
Yeah, just information for the rest of the committee. Ella put together that brochure and newsletter on ROTC.
I saw that.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it was
was
mailed to us.
informative, well done.
Yeah.
And again, another notch on our superstars belt over there.
So we have the failure, so we get them next year.
And then I liked your comment. So you're seeing more other creative courses
Yeah, definitely.
that are elective, but also relevant to your interests.
Well, I primarily am taking courses that are general because I don't have my future plans exactly planned out.
Yep.
But I definitely I do dance and I do I'm interested in early education, so I'm trying to get both, but I'm hoping to do an internship senior year, which I may be dropping some of those electives to leave the school and do an internship with my dance studio so that I can kind of do both school and dance at the same time.
Good. Good. Any other questions?
I have a follow-up, actually, I think regarding the IB and in the AP courses, which is actually a good point. So I guess I'm curious now to understand. Well, of course, we offer those classes because we know they're important in general for kids, but do we have a specific college, prep, university, a champion on campus that can actually scout out exactly colleges, which courses will actually they accept more than others? In essence, geared our focus like, oh, okay, are we actually dumping a bunch of courses that means nothing in general, which I don't think that's the case. It could be the specific school, technical school, probably gonna more AP is more popular. They know about it more than just IB. Just curious to understand if you can close that gap, ensuring that the classes we're offering, yes, school to them in appropriately, or maybe school just don't know about them per se, but we just need to actually advocate for those courses. Here's what happened. Here's the actual criteria of the courses, why they're important for your school to actually look at them and respect them, kind of thing, if you will. So I'm curious to understand if you're seeing this now from your point of view. I'm wondering how widespread it is.
I will say when we got to talk about the IB classes, and they're very good. I really like how they're done, but they tended to make it seem like any college will look at an IB course and recognize it. But as Ella said, not all schools do, and some schools more recognize AP classes. So I guess the students are kind of making that choice if they want to go the IB route or the AP route, and they'll base they'll base the classes that they choose in those paths based on the college that they want to go to.
Yeah, I think there's also something to say with how the curriculums kind of fundamentally differ. From what I've noticed, the IB is obviously it's a more European based curriculum, AP, but what I've noticed is that AP, especially for the STEM classes, it's a lot more rigid curriculum. We get through these units, you take this test, you get this credit, you get this score. Whereas I've noticed IB, just even in my IB classes, it's a lot more of how would you describe it? Like thinking and discussion and collaboration. I think they both play important roles, especially for like my STEM focus. I'm kind of a STEM brain. I kind of like that rigid curriculum, but I also see the benefits of like our English class where we talk a lot.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, she kind of nailed it because that's
She explained it better than I did.
That's exactly what I was heading toward, right? In essence, on campus, students actually, they're not blindly choosing courses, but they kind of have an idea like, oh, okay, I'm doing this. Or basically sampling, because like you said, you probably have no idea what you want to do yet, right? Ultimately, like, all right, I'm going to take a couple here, a couple there. But ultimately, they have the knowledge from here that can help them say, hey, here's where this is going to lead you. I think you're doing a great job by actually mapping it out. I think having that aspect for every student to have the opportunity to map their future out would be actually very important.
The only other thing I'll say about it is I think when Ella and Anna are sort of talking about colleges that recognize AP or IB or even PLTW. So some colleges actually give you credit for taking those courses. So for example, if you're going to school for engineering and you've taken AP Lit and Lang and you've scored a certain amount, then they may say you don't have to have an English freshman year, right? So it's sort of like a potential cost savings. But what we try to tell our students, because I was in course selections the other day with the kids, is like, it's not always about, that's like a real benefit to it. But the greater benefit to both those courses is the diversity in the courses. So we're appealing to more students. And not only that, it's the work that they do to gain those skills to be successful in college. So but our guidance department does continually run sort of reports on who's providing credits for different things and all of those things that they stay on top of that. But
my question was on that, was the guidance department, and is it MyCap program? MyCap, does that help in planning courses and direction?
Their ages started with Naviance, with the system,
okay.
with the guidance counselors, and we just are transitioning over to MyCap because that's a DESE requirement. But I think Ella's ending her senior year on Naviance. Anna, I don't know if your grade level has MyCap.
We're both juniors.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Gosh, I forget that. Yeah, so are you both still in Naviance or have you switched over to MyCap? I think you're both still in that.
I'm still on Naviance. I'm going to be honest, I haven't been in my Naviance for like 6 months at least. But when I have been on, it's been pretty useful in college. It has a lot of good statistics and stuff like that.
Yeah, on Naviance, I remember the last time we used it, which was like 6 months ago, we were building our resume and putting all of the things that we've done with in school and out of school. But with the guidance counselors, I tend to like to go to my guidance counselor when I'm picking courses and have her look at my transcript and tell me what I physically need to round it out and just kind of where I'm heading in that direction, what I should take and what is not necessary for me.
You can answer the question. Excellent. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, I know. Okay, next we'll go to administrative report, superintendent of schools.
That's tough to beat those.
It really is. I do have a couple highlights up my sleeve though. So I'm just gonna highlight a couple things. So last time I shared out that we had gotten our results back from our strategic plan survey. So I've shared with you just some overall data about how many people responded, some of the key areas, but I want to just point out a couple things that I feel are important. So of 76% of the people that responded to the survey said that they felt pride in our schools. I think that's really important because sometimes you get a survey and it's really focused on all the things you can do better. And what this tells me is people believe in us and they know, you know, as always, we can and should do better. So I just think that's a positive as we're thinking through those things. One of the surprises was around the 4 most important skills that folks felt that Quabbin students needed to attain. There was a tie for fourth with social emotional learning and financial literacy. So that's interesting. And that's coming down from graduation requirements. That's one of the things that's possibly on the table. The areas from the survey, we can definitely do more on our transitions from elementary to middle school to high school, communication, and especially finding more opportunities for parents to be involved at the middle high school level. And I'm really happy to make this connection that people are looking for more real world hands-on learning, which we heard about from our STEM kids tonight. So that feels good. We're going to continue I've been attending PTO meetings and doing a little bit of tour just to gather more data. I didn't have as many respondents as I would hope, and I sent the survey out twice. And then we'll also use all of the data that we have as we're starting to build the plan. The other thing I wanted to share with you is in your packet, you will find a flyer. And as I've talked about during our meetings, we are exploring the possibility of having an agricultural pathway here in the Quabbin Regional School District. So this flyer was created by Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. They received a $10,000 grant to help us gather information about what the workforce needs are and student and family interests are. So you can take this survey yourself. The students are going to get one in their email that they can take the survey, hopefully Friday. We'll get that tomorrow. We'll get that out. And we've been working really closely with DESE about possible avenues to go, and they are releasing planning grants for just this kind of work. So we're going to apply for a planning grant. We're in conversations with other schools about whether they would like to be a collaborative partner with Quabbin. We believe having more schools involved would be better because to run a pathway, we might need, I'll just take 18 students for animal science by grade level. Quabbin may not have 18 students who are interested in animal science. So by having a more of a collaborative approach, we'd have to have like a board of directors, different things like that. But it will allow other schools to sort of buy in. It might help us be more sustainable in that way. So I wanted to share that because I'm pretty jazzed
That
up
was
about
pretty
it.
good. That was pretty good.
And then I think in my report, those are sort of the big highlights. The sad news is around the budget. We're really hoping that the next release of the budget is more K-12 school friendly than the governor's budget, but we'll have to wait and see on that.
Okay, and then you've been going to PTO meetings, and then you said the survey, but also you're doing how's the regional agreement listening sessions?
Yeah, so far I've been to OCAM and I've been to Hardwick, and people have been great, very receptive, just asking for clarification. I think when people look at the regional agreement, they can actually see the difference now between the town-owned schools and the district-owned schools, which is something that DESE really wanted us to clarify. So I think that is a positive for us.
Have they been well attended?
I've doing them in conjunction with select board meetings. So OCAM was probably a traditional attendance. Claire came, and there were a couple, actually there were more people than normal because the PTO was there, and then they had a road topic. So there were more people. Mr. Nutter was there with me, and Hardwick was quite well attended because they must have been the libraries, right, Jenna? You had a lot of library people there. But yeah, so it's a nice.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Any questions, the superintendent?
I do. Survey. Response rate was not calculated, correct? Because we can't really measure it, like the response rate from parents. From the community, I guess, because the survey went out to everyone.
Yes, no, I have those percentages broken down by parents, by
Oh, you
staff.
do?
Yes. Mhm. Yeah.
I guess ultimately, how do you read? I mean, all of us really. How do you read the transition to elementary, middle school, high school? Because it was a question, that's the thing, but how do you read that? In other words, what does that mean to us?
Well, there were a lot of comments, so there were a lot of open-ended questions on that. And that is one thing. I've been to 2 PTO meetings so far. So I've been to OCAM PTO and then I've been to Ruggles Lane PTO. So we're hearing from families who've transitioned students up that are one of our events, the very first, I think it's considered an open house night, right? Yeah, an open house night. That they love the timing of it. That feels really great, but it's just a lot in one night and there's a lot of traffic. That was repeated through the feedback. Also, the communication, it feels like, and again, I'm only sharing things that are repeated in the survey.
Themes.
Yeah, the themes. So the communication stays pretty strong in 6th grade, but tends to drop off as the students move through 7th and 8th grade. But that transition to high school feels very independent, like, and I don't think this is our intention, but the way people are receiving it is that students should be independent to advocate their way up through grades 9 through 12. So that's something we have to definitely think about.
Thank you. Any director of keeping?
Yeah.
Directors that want?
Yeah, Shelley's out there. And I don't know if she wants to say anything. But she has some things, some highlights in her section. Kevin's here. He has some highlights in his section. Allison, I know, wants to share something. So anyone who wants to chime in, feel free.
I can talk about the information that I have in there.
We can't hear you, Shelley.
Oh,
It could be us.
Quite a face.
can you hear me now? No?
She does look like she's unmuted.
Yeah.
Andrew's on, so he'll probably hop in and figure out what's happening.
I can hear you, Shelley.
Unlike last meeting.
Trisha can hear me. Can anybody else
We
hear
had
me?
Jess, we were all set.
No, I couldn't help you.
Oh, Chris
So
said
the
he
same
can
thing
hear
is happening
Shelley.
that happened before.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can, huh?
Bear with us a second.
Sure. I feel like the people that are online can hear me, but not maybe you guys in the room.
It's like Shelley's got a lot to say too.
Can you try again, Shelley? No?
I wasn't talking.
We got you.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. So I have just a couple of things to share out. I'm very happy to say that the Title I tiered focus monitoring review was submitted this afternoon to DESE. So that was a lot of work over the past couple of months to get all of those documents compiled. I think there was like close to about 20 different submissions that we had to do in regards to our title grants. So now the process is to allow them time to go through that, and then they'll set up a meeting with us to discuss their findings. So more to come on that one. Drew isn't there anymore, correct?
No, he's gone.
Oh, so I just wanted to give him a shout out. He works really, really hard at what he does. So recently he was presenting our scape work. I know I've talked about that quite a few times here at school committee. And so we're working with a cohort across the state of other educators in different districts. And so he was able to share the work that we've been doing here in Quabbin. And the feedback that we got, I included it there. Like, thank you, Drew. Great work yesterday at the virtual session. It was so great to see what Quabbin has been doing with the scape work. And they also shared that with DESE, and they were pretty impressed with the work that we've been doing. Ironically, we actually did some more walkthroughs this morning with our team over at the middle and high school into our science classrooms. So that's some ongoing work that will continue. The other two things that I have just to talk about really quickly is our school report cards were just released. DESE recently updated them at the end of January. So those report cards went home to parents. They have access to them online, and they're also posted on our school website. And it looks at a variety of different data points for our district. And then lastly, we just had Caleb Joseph come to the middle high school on January 29th. So his speech to our students was pretty moving. He talks about his career as an elite basketball player and his struggles with mental health and how he had to like hide a lot of that from the people that surrounded him. And it wasn't until he started opening up about his journey to recovery that he was able to really kind of overcome a lot of the obstacles that he was facing. And what I can remember about that kind of struck a chord with me was he asked all of the kids actually, you know, if you when you were young around like 6 or 7 years old, who was there a lot of people around you that really, really knew everything about you and you saw almost every hand go up? And then he said, all right, what about now? Would you say that all of the people around you know everything that there is to know about you? And there were very few hands that went up. And he just really talked about the importance of you know, talking to people, letting them know who you truly are and not kind of holding things in because a lot of that, when you're holding all of those feelings in and things about yourself, you don't have an opportunity to talk about them and it can lead to some mental health issues later on, which in his case led to some substance abuse in his life, which he was able to overcome. So it was a really moving presentation. There were quite a few students that did go up to him after. And so I wish the girls were still here. They were probably in attendance. They actually were in attendance there. They could have talked about that a little bit more, but a really great presentation for the high school students.
Good. Any questions?
So that was just high school, not the middle school too, or?
Yes, just high school.
Just high school. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have anything you want to share in reports?
Director of Building and Grounds? How's that boiler situation?
We've had a few different meetings with Hardwick with regards to their current boiler situation. We had another one down there today. Met with 3 different people and basically they're still cooking around different ideas and what their thoughts are. Tomorrow, we're supposed to be meeting with Representative Berthium down there to take a look at the boiler as well. But they don't have any concrete plan yet as to what they're doing. Went to the select board meeting in Ocam last week to discuss the failed boiler control, which basically the controller itself is bad. So the boiler itself just runs like a light switch. You just turn it on. The only control I have is changing the temperature manually. I can change it from 140 to 160, but it can't self-regulate. It can't take outside air temperature into account to turn on, turn off, that type of thing. So basically it's just running. So we're still waiting to hear back from them what their decision is on that. And each of those renewable energy that we had met with before to talk about vehicle charging stations, we have given them the okay to come on site to provide the free assessment to tell us whether we have feasibility to do it or not. So.
Any questions? On the boiler situation, just quickly, I'm just asking, what I know is what I've read as well of what you've shared recently. Are selectmen or folks looking at different alternatives of energy or different mechanics of a boiler? What?
And hardware.
Yeah.
So currently you have an oil burner, which is roughly 35 years old, just a typical section, 8-section boiler. We had received a price to replace the existing with an 8-section boiler. They're looking at, they've talked about propane, they've talked about, you know, whether they can go electric with heat pumps, that type of thing like that. So they're trying to look at all avenues. They've talked about replacing sections in the boiler as opposed to actually replacing it. Replacing sections in the boiler, it's just a guesstimate because you don't know how many sections you need to do till you start taking them apart piece by piece. You have to start at the front and start peeling them off, see how many sections are bad. It's an 8-section boiler, which has had 3 sections replaced in the past. We know we feel strongly there's at least 2 sections that are leaking right now. So you'd have to do a minimum of 2 sections, which.
Kevin, what's the life expectancy of like a boiler? I mean, like how long does one usually last?
It depends on how you're running it. It depends on the situation you're in, depends on your water quality. But getting 35 years out of something like that, great.
35 years, average, you would say.
So they're,
So it's at its life end.
It doesn't owe you anything.
I do have a follow-up question. So I guess in that sense, have we assessed potential safety risk?
I guess that's kind of more on the town. I mean, as far as us, we've reported the problem to them that we have one that's failed and we only have 1 unit right now, no backup, no, we can't run together when it's really cold, anything like that. But it's their decision as to how they proceed from here, whether they're going to replace it, whether they're gonna have to repair it to put a Band-Aid on so they can do a bigger project at a later date. Hands are kind of tied at this point.
But I hear three terms here that it's not self-regulate anymore. It's leaking. And so that's 2 different things. Okay, so which one is leaking then? In hardware?
And hardware is leaking and is actually shut off.
So that one is shut off, but the one in Oakham is running, not self-regulate, but not leaking.
Correct.
Okay, but regardless, in terms of safety, it's on the town aspect. And have they done any due diligence to ensure that it's still running with no issues? There's the potential failure that can lead to safety issues.
I'll answer for you. Do you want to answer?
Are you referring to whether the other one can fail? So in Hardwick, there's 2 units. One is down.
One shut down. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, but the one that's not shut down.
I mean, when you say safety hazard, what are you referring to? Sprinkler freeze ups and stuff like that?
Correct.
There's no safety hazard otherwise, if that's what you're asking.
I guess that's what I want to hear. Right.
All right,
Okay.
so it's an typical oil fired water boiler. So if it's going to fail, it's going to leak.
Okay.
It's typically what happens. The sections crack. And once they crack, you're going to replace the sections. Every once in a while, you can repair them, but when they're that old, you're going to replace the sections. So if it's going to fail, it's either going to fail on the controller side typically, or the crack sections of the boiler are going to start leaking. And once it starts leaking, you can get that crack, the more with your heat expansion, it's going to leak more, that type of thing. So that boiler started to leak through the sections. We peeled the sides off, started leaking through the sections. The three-way valve or the OS&Y valve that is supposed to shut off the water to that boiler is not holding either. So now that the boiler is shut off and the water is shut off, it's still leaking on the floor. You can't run it, and when I say you can't run it, it's just because it's going to get worse leaking, or it's not going to hurt anything. If the other boiler happens to go down, which is the same vintage, same year, same everything, yes, you have a potential of freezing pipes, sprinkler heads.
Yeah. Stay tuned. They're reviewing it now. They understand the importance of it and the immediacy of it.
We've been to several meetings lately. Kevin, more than I.
Thank you. Anything else?
Well, I thought I saw Andrew pop up, but in his section, you will see our,
There he is.
oh, there
I'm
he
here.
is.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that our esports team is up and running. They have been playing for the last 3 weeks. They are currently 2-1. Great for next week, but it's a great bunch of kids and they're really getting along well together and the program's going great.
Thank you.
Andrew had a video that he shared with us and you could hear the kids. Did I talk about this? Have we had a meeting since we had esports up and running? But he has a video and the kids sit like, you know, 1 in front and 2 behind. They have their headsets on the whole 9 yards, right? And it's like a driving game or something. And they're saying to the kid in front of them, "Great pass, man. Yeah, keep that up all day long." Right? Like, it's just so cool to hear. Like, do you know what I mean? Because I think you know, I think people have some ideas about esports and, you know, why do we want kids to play more video games? But, you know, part of the curriculum or the coach book and all of that is really around strategy. And then when you hear kids who play at a high level actually sharing that strategy and different things, you're like, wow, that's impressive. So anyways, yeah, I'm sorry they lost today. They were on it.
Thank you, Andrew. School Business Administrator?
All right, warrants, biweekly payroll, we have 15, 16, 17, weekly payroll, 29, 30, 31, 32, and 33, and accounts payable, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, and 50. And all I have to report, very happy to report, as of this afternoon, our E&D was finally certified.
Yes.
Yes, excellent news.
1.22?
1.145.
1.145, yeah. So great.
And
Well, that-
Stacy said it was the same number she submitted back in September.
Same number.
To the penny.
Glad they finally.
So it's
figured out
1.1.
how to balance.
1.1.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then will that help for the audit piece to be coming around?
No.
Are we still waiting for the retirement board?
No. No, they're requesting, more.
Okay, so we're still waiting a little further information and then we're okay to wait a little further?
One of their auditors that came to us resigned shortly after they did our audit. And so they're missing things that we provided to them. So they keep asking for redundancy of information that we've sent them. And that's what the delay is. So,
Okay.
Jill,
Thank
did you have anything
Do we go out to bid
Thank you.
annually on that?
for the auditor?
Yeah.
That's a great question. Do we bid
So-
annually on the audit?
The auditor is exempt from 30B, but we did sign a contract with Markham. It was a 3-year contract, which had been picked up by CBiz. Apparently, I have not found a contract with CBiz stating that it's been picked up, just that it had been picked up. So I'm looking for the contract from CBiz that says that we are in contract with them. So I'm waiting on that.
And
When
then-
was the other one? Do you know when the other one was up or what the term was?
That one was FY 24, 5, and 6. So we'd be committed to FY 26 with them as well, if that is true.
And again, like you said, Markham, and then they sold it, there was this, there was that.
I mean, we
What happened to
must have a
Powers and
great
Sullivan? I know, they got,
Yeah.
they got bought out. Powers and
That's what
Sullivan.
happened. Maybe
Yeah.
we need to think about it.
Okay, anything, Director of Student Services? Thank you, directors, for sharing any fantastic report from superintendent. And it's nice, thank you. Want to say, that's good. Anything from Student Services?
Really mentioning that, I feel like I keep mentioning our IMR that we're undergoing, but that's an ongoing process that feels like it's never gonna end. It will end because we have our on-site March 3rd, week, and then they'll review everything and come back several weeks later, so like April, May, like kind of their findings and if we have any deficiencies and what we need to do. So maybe I'm just too naive to be worried about too much about it, but I feel like, we submitted information, didn't really have much left unanswered, so we'll see how that goes.
Right.
And then just that picture at the bottom, I feel like that just speaks it's like 1,000 words. So our NHA students are really partnering with our postgrad students and our preschool students, and they're really interacting in ways that are just very heartwarming. So it's nice to see. So the picture on here is a picture of one of our NHA students working with one of our postgrad students. They took some obstacle courses, and the kids love it. Like they come in and they just want to do the next obstacle course. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to watch. If you guys haven't been out to New Braintree to see the program, I'd certainly recommend you go out and do that because it's really nice to see them all working together.
And the implementation of the new IEP and going smoothly.
Yeah.
Parents are working, do they like that piece of the transition piece and things like that? And
For the new IEP.
Yeah.
Most parents don't love the new IEP. I think it's a lot to get used to. It's just a lot more papers.
Okay.
So an IEP in the past, I may have been 15 pages, now like 25 pages, just because it's some redundancy in it, but I mean, at this point, we're used to it. There's no questions. It's just not like it's been there forever. The transition piece definitely is more thought out and clear, I think, kind of like the direction students are going in. So it has been a positive. But I think at this point, we've always had it. We don't think of it as a new IEP anymore.
I'm sorry, I'm asking a couple of questions. How's the EI piece, the early intervention end of your resource referral and everything there. How is that going?
It's going really well. I mean, we have our team chair that handles all of those, and she's, constantly getting me referrals. She'll do home visits and, very good about having the team meetings prior to their third birthday and having them start on their third birthdays. But I think we've always done a really good job with that.
Are the numbers increased?
I think it's pretty static. I mean, it's not increasing, but it's steady. I mean, I think I can see in the calendar, we probably have a couple of EI evaluations a month, so. So it's steady, but I don't think it's more.
Anybody else? And then athletics or anything? Or?
Oh, just, Mr. Myville included the athletic report there.
Beautiful.
They're ending some of the winter seasons.
I just want to say with the winter sports, like I love the fact that we have the co-ops. I think it's given the students a great opportunity. And actually this year in Quabbin, there were 5 Quabbin students on the Gardner swim team through that. All 5 of them were able to go into leagues, and then Whitney, Ella's sister, made it into sectionals. It was actually a good showing by Quabbin and all that.
Yeah, they're representing very well on those teams.
Is there any talk about, and I know that transportation is difficult, there's talk about some parents with kids that would like to be part of the swim team, but there's just no way to get them there. Is there any possibility of transportation to Gardner? Or has that ever been talked about?
We have not talked about that. And so I can ask our athletic director about it. I wouldn't even want to give you an answer because I've never been a part of that conversation. So
I think last year he told the parents like it's not part of the agreement in the co-op. And what he did in the past, like last year, he didn't do it this year. Things everyone kind of knew most people, but had just like, I'm like, hey, if you want people's information and carpool over there, because I know there's another mother in Hubbardston who sometimes like grabs my daughter and brings her over there because I have to work. Like we kind of work together to get them there. It can be a challenge, especially when the practices are at 3:45 and you're working and you're like, how do I get my kid from here to there? So.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's a thorough report, Superintendent. Appreciate the directors. And just like a last piece, quick comment, question on the Northbrook field. Any update? I know we have a packet of information here, but is there anything that you can share where, because last month you said, okay, we went to a meeting, we went, well, stay tuned. Are we still staying tuned? Can you give us a quick little?
Sure.
synopsis?
So North Brookfield hired an independent consultant to do a cost analysis between Quabbin and Quabog for a tuition agreement. And so the gentleman was very fair. He was not there to make a recommendation. He was crystal clear that finances were only one part of an equation to think about what you might do with your students. So I included his PowerPoint here for you. There's some interesting things in here. Like I feel like there's a lot to learn, but at the end of the day, what happened was we presented a number that included sort of special education costs within that number that we typically have in our schools. So if it was inclusion, we didn't add on more money for things like that. But Quabog presented theirs differently in that they had a base fee and then they would need to add on for any of the special education or English learner services, different things like that. So at the end of the day, and I think this is probably on slide, let me just see if I can find it. Yeah, on slide, on page 6, this was the summary comparison. So basically the net increase, so he ran all these numbers. If you close the school, here are your I forget his term for it, but the cost you would not have because you closed the school, right? And then here are the additional costs you're going to have if you take on a partner. So the cost savings or increase for Quabbin was an increase of $48,000. But what happened with Quabog was the consultant's number didn't match the Quabog number. And so Quabog numbers indicate that there could be a cost savings of $430,000. The consultant's numbers, is that how it goes? Yes. The consultant's numbers would be an additional cost of up to $340,000. So what he said was, it's probably neither here nor there, right? It's probably somewhere in between. So the way they left it, it was a long night. They had a lot of discussion. There were a lot of parents and teachers that were advocating for keeping their school just the way it is. The finance person on the FinCom was sitting right next to me, and he said, you know, vocally, I don't think it's worth it unless we're going to sort of save a lot of money. But I think the task force feels like maybe the town needs to make a decision to do something. So they were very tired and they agreed to meet again on the 18th. So really no new information, except that I was pleased that I felt like we were consistent.
Very.
You know, how we presented was consistent, and I don't know what to say other than that.
Lee?
Yeah, so got a couple questions?
Sure.
That's okay, on page 5.
You might be testing our
No, it's
interpretation.
curious as to how, so for us, on top there, they have, it's a 125 non-choice and 48 students surcharged at 5,000 a pop. So the total comes to 173. For them, they have 134 non-choice and they have an estimated 5 students at 6,500 a pop. So my question is, and it sort of says, I guess it says grade 7 school choice students. So what happened to 34 other students that they didn't include at either 6,500 a pop or even 5,000 a pop?
Well, they could have been elementary school choice kids.
No, I mean, this is apples to apples here, supposedly.
Yeah, no, but it's by town,
Yeah.
right? So I think, I'm sorry, and I did not look this over to refresh my brain on this. But I think what they were comparing was,
I think Quabog had a different rate for the school choice than we did. I think we were at $10,000.
yeah,
Right.
you're
Yes,
right,
we had
Deb.
5 and 5.
And yeah, but Lee is right. That number doesn't make sense, right?
I mean, so if we're looking at 65 a pop, 6,500 a pop, that's 220,000 that they didn't think based on 30 students that they didn't equate. Or if they're talking 5,000 a pop, that's 170,000. Should have been.
So, I mean, for me, the way I'm reading it, it's almost like it is about 17,000 per something per student.
That's what we,
The document,
yeah.
but-
Yeah.
But for the school choice, currently it's 5,000.
Correct.
So in other words, like, what's the benefit, I guess, for them in that case, right? Or I guess it's a huge discrepancy.
Well, there's 34 missing students, the way I see it, from the Quabog aspect.
Yeah, I can't answer that.
I actually remember when these slides came up because I shook my head at the superintendent because I was like, that's not right. But then later they said something that I was like, okay, now that makes sense. And I apologize because I really cannot recall.
Oh, so they would convert the current school choice students under this agreement? Okay.
And then one other thing too is, you're looking at Lee, is like when Pauline's or Quabbin's number and how we did it, the consultant did say, it's, there's going to be some other additional costs and things like that, but they 2.5. Whereas when you look at the Quabog, they had that discrepancy. So it could be 2.2 million or maximum 2.9 of not having the right figures. Whereas ours was kind of like coming right at 2.5. And the gentleman said, that's what we have from Quabbin.
I mean, I think honestly, they're kind of in a predicament because the gist of the room was that they've been talking about this for 10+ years. And I don't know that there's a clear direction. They worked 3 years to regionalize with Quabog. And with that happening, a lot of their students went to Quabog anticipating that that's the way it was going to go. So the feeling is, let's bring our kids back home and keep our schools. So that's when they were tasked with looking into these tuition agreements. And I think it was like, what's the benefit of doing that? We might as well stay kind of the way we are. It's kind of reading the room, what the
And
sentiment
I
kind of
think
seems.
there may have been a desire, right, Deb, for regionalization again.
And
I think, yeah.
I gotta tell you, there was some negative comments
Sure.
about bigger schools and
Yeah.
Quabbin. But there was a lot more favorable comments about Quad.
Yeah, so the other point, Pauline is on page 7. When he's talking about considerations on 2027, and I know a couple of the meetings we had discussing this. So I don't think, do we look at, or maybe I missed that comment. So continued school choice surcharges as students continue to be assimilated by the receiving district. So we said we're going to keep the surcharge on the current students at $5K. So as they graduate, obviously, we lose that $5K. But the flip side of that is against us in a way. We're getting kids coming up from the elementary school. Now it's 17, blah, blah.
Or 18, yeah.
A kid.
Whatever the number is.
So I don't know if anybody's factored that in to say, well, if they choose Quabbin, now we've got another 60 kids that are going to be, 17, 6,000 more than what.
I agree. I actually think, I said this to you guys when we met that time, right? Like, they have to figure out that if they were smart, they'd go to the district that had less of their students currently because they'd save money because, right? Yeah, he doesn't have that accounted for in here. And I am remembering on slide 7, it was that there was an additional 5,000 on top of the regular 5,000 school choice amount.
That would be
But if you're comparing that to Lee's point, is Quabog saying they're only going to have a tuition surcharge for the 7th graders and there's only 5 of them? It's possible that was the deal they were making.
I understand that, but where's the other 34 kids is my question.
I think they're saying they're pulling them into their, I would assume maybe they're saying they're going to consider them non-choice students and they'd be tuition students.
But it should still show a financial impact.
I think it might be factored into the 134.
But it might not be.
It might not be. This guy was really thorough, though. That's
No,
what
I understand.
I will
Which
say.
is why I'm saying, I would have thought somehow the 34 would have been counted.
Yes, yeah.
Fine, they're being, impacted in this or put in that, as opposed to the heck are they?
And again, hopefully they're not making this decision based on one piece of the puzzle, which is just the financial, hopefully that's not the only basis. Stay tuned.
And next week, they're supposed to be deliberating the school committee because Deb went, I went, superintendent, and we listened. We were not talking, townsfolk spoke. And you had both the advocacy of the small school community base, which we get. We get the loss of what it would be. But at the same time, they can't have class sizes of graduating class sizes of 15 and 20 and not having to read. So it's not just about money, it's about programming and what is good for kids.
Right.
So I just want to say thank you, Colleen, for all this. And next week is a meeting. Oh, Dr. Allen.
Yeah. At the end, you touched upon a point I was gonna make. Problem with North Brookfield and their thinking and their approach is they got it the wrong way around. Knowing the finances, absolutely critical. But the most important thing are the kids. Where do they get the best education? Where do they have the most opportunity? Where are they going to get that STEM sort of
They
thing?
do have,
Or the
lead the
ROTC
way, they do have lead the way.
sort of thing.
They do.
Not the full.
Yeah, this is by far a better educational opportunity for them. And I think about your town, Peggy, when, what was it, about 84, 85, 86, when it was raised in the town. Where do our kids get they looked here, they looked at North Brookfield where they had been, and they looked at Quabog. And we were the most expensive. I think we were maybe 1,300 a kid or something like that at the time. And they chose to come here because this is the best education, despite what Norman Benoit had to say. We all remember him. Some of us remember him. But, you know, I've talked about North Brookfield. And, okay, but they got it the wrong way around. School committee, for goodness sake, school committee should be looking at what's the best education for our kids. Then how do we support it? It's the wrong way around.
Problem is, who are the decision makers here? It seems like, I mean, you guys went to the meetings, but at least from what you read in the newspapers, it's all cost driven.
Correct. And you saw it.
I know that, but if the decision makers in the town are cost driven and really are giving lip service to education, that's the difference. So.
Yeah, and from what I could read in the Barry Gazette,
it was right at
there was no cost benefit this way, that way, or the other. Keep it Quabog, Quabbin. Toss it in the air and it could come down any which way, which is
pretty
why.
much a net zero.
Yeah.
And I think if anything, Quabog proposal was really undefined and, you know, when that happens, potentially it's a lot more than you may expect.
Sure, which is why you start with what's the best education for our kids.
So next week, next Wednesday night, the school committee will be having a discussion on this, and we'll see what they're gonna go. Thank you. Subcommittee reports, administrative review, central office.
Next week, we will be meeting to start looking at the leases.
Okay.
Those things that.
So we'll get a
are
meeting
going
together
on
in
in-
central office.
Yep, and waiting on audit stuff.
So we'll get a meeting together, okay?
Next week we'll meet.
Audit, again, I'm not worried. You said that's gonna happen, but right now we're waiting for some stuff, so. Budget?
Yes, we had our first meeting on the 29th of January for the 5 towns. Showed up, Hubbardston, my town wasn't there, but they're going through some significant transition now, so you can somewhat use that as an excuse. And, you know, the towns talked about the challenges that they're encountering over the coming year. We also spoke about the challenges that we're facing over the coming year. And so it's hopefully we can all wind up on the same page at some point, hopefully before September. Some of the significant challenges that we're talking about is, you know, we're still losing resident enrollment. We're only getting 75 per student in aid for the year, but we're not alone. I mean, there's now just over 211 cities, districts that were like that. And now there's 271. I got 71, but 272. And I guess that's 2/3 of the schools in the state. I mean, we're talking about 371 school districts in the state of 375 and 371 towns. So everybody's kind of in the same situation. We're dealing with some hiring issues. It's getting more and more difficult to fill positions in a timely manner, which results in increased substitute costs. And we're looking at refreshing our technology, which needs to be done. I think we had talked about that last year, though we had pulled some money back, and we're talking about it again this year. Goods and services, he seemed to be almost everything. He's actually going up. Somebody pointed out, well, oil may be down, but bottom line is a lot of things are going up. And an example was a 6% increase for athletic officials this coming year. So that was something that we looked at. Insurance costs, and a big item on this is we have 3 union contracts that are currently in negotiations, which represent a significant portion of our budget. Personnel should actually represent a big portion because that's who's teaching our students. District priorities, we just want to maintain the focus on academic achievement, closing any achievement gaps that we have, and provide students and educators with the proper technology and curriculum to actually move forward with our priorities. And we've also reduced 16 positions over the course of the last 2 years. So people have to realize that we're making a significant effort to deal with the budget issues. For resident enrollment, all the towns were down except for Hardwick, which was up 17 students. Berry was down 1, Hubbardston was down 15, New Braintree down 16, and Ocam was up 6, and the total for everybody as of October 1st, right, would be 7 down from last year, and 51 down from the previous 3 years. A couple other items I want to talk about. We just talked about North Brookfield, and I always like the proof is of the pudding is in who comes to our school. I mean, school choice. You got Athol, 34 kids, 34 children, 37 from Gardner. Looks like 60 from North Brookfield already. Okay, so I don't understand what the concern is about. Well, I don't know. And where 48 students are coming in. But if you take a look at school choice, Quabbin has always been one of the top schools for school choice. We have a quality program here. It's been running roughly 12% for the last 15 years or so. So it's not like it's really changed a lot. We haven't lost a lot of students. We really haven't gained a lot of students. Sort of stay in a pretty tight range. Things that aren't included in this budget, which at some point we're going to have to address, is for the athletic department. Bottom line is we're scheduled for a full uniform recycle replacement. That's not going to happen. Innovation pathways, we may have a decrease in some field trips and DECA related spending. Music, there are some equipment requests which we really haven't been able to include in this budget. A reduction in supplies and materials. And we've lost 5 FTEs, 2 through attrition in this particular budget. So we have made some attempts. The administration has been working on this since fall, and they have made some significant attempts to reduce the budget. They instituted a mid-year budget freeze to monitor spending, negotiated a 1-year level funded special education transportation contract, and as I just mentioned, reduced the 5 FTEs. What we're looking at for a preliminary budget, there are some unknowns, obviously. And the 2 big unknowns is, I don't think we get a final number for heating oil?
No, not yet.
Not yet. And the contract negotiations for teachers, secretaries, and para. If you take a look at the budget that we produce, and this is online, right? Anybody can access this online. The preliminary budget figure is $43,887,444, which represents a $3,068,155 increase, or 7.52% over last year, which we all agreed as we adjourned the meeting that there needs to be some additional talk over where we can actually reduce this. So by the time the assessments come out, the towns are really concerned about the assessments. And if we can show some good faith efforts to reduce this to a more manageable number, I think they'll understand. Additional adjustments to the budget will be made as they become known, particularly, as I mentioned, the contract negotiations and heating oil costs. Upcoming, our next meeting is March 5th. We're going to have a meeting at 5:30, talk about this some more. Hopefully, all the towns are there. Hopefully, there are some modifications to this budget that we can.
There will be many.
Pardon me?
I said there will be many.
There will be many, okay. Because it's, we have to, because the towns actually, I'm sure when they see the 7.5% increase, they sometimes may have some questions related to it, and hopefully we can, have all the answers and show them, the cuts that we've made. And we want to maintain a quality school district. And the public hearing is on the 12th. And I believe that's at, I don't have a time here, but I think that's probably at 5:30.
12th of March.
I think once we.
12th of March, right?
Yes.
The next budget meeting
Is the
public
5th.
hearing on the 12th, and, we may even wind up with some additional meetings to flesh out some of the changes to this existing budget right here. And this is online. If anybody wants to look at it, look at the function totals, the increases. I asked a question on professional development. That was the one that I was concerned went up 100%. But, Colleen actually explained it, very adeptly, and we really need to make sure that our teachers have quality professional development programs and in improvement over maybe perhaps some in the past, and that's where we are. You want to come on the 5th? It will be probably a different number, and we'll be presenting that to the towns, and hopefully they all show up, because what happens, as I explained at the end of the meeting, is what happens usually is the towns don't show up until like it's the day before that they're going to vote on it, right? I mean, they really need to provide some input to us all along. And we really didn't get a lot of just concerns about the final
So
amount.
they get assessments, their assessment. That's when it really, could I add, is this the time or should I do it under new business? So we have some additional information that we didn't have, and it wouldn't change our budget at all, but I just want to mention it because I think it's going to be critically important. So our vocational schools were allowed in the passing of a new law. They passed a law around a lottery system for vocational schools, but they also passed a law around opening up more seats for students to attend vocational educations. I know that the Pathfinder superintendent reached out to me and said that New Braintree's student numbers were going up by 30% this year. That's going to be a significant but a significant increase to the towns, right? Additionally, we have 3 students who've applied to agricultural schools. One in Ocam and 2 in New Braintree. And the towns are responsible for both tuition and transportation. So outside of just the Quabbin budget, I think the vocational budgets are going to be really challenging. Now, typically, towns do not vote for their budget. Typically, they, it's 1 or 2 students and they vote them. Pathfinder is a regional vocational school, as is Monty Tech. People could, decide not to pass that budget. I'm not saying they should, I'm just saying they could, like happens with us, and they would have to use the same process. But I think that is going to make Quabbin passing a budget that much harder when towns are faced with those additional student costs.
No, it was appropriate to
To a
say.
great extent, they've never even questioned. Every meeting I've ever been at, it just, we're there for 20 minutes and they're there for 30 seconds.
So I mean,
Monty Tech.
So quick question. So I guess what I'm hearing is the approval process is expected to be harder because the town is going to be facing with a different set of choices. The district plus the vocational aspect, right? I mean, I think this is how actually I get encounter you, Mrs. Mohawk, is the fact that when we go to the towns, or we prepare, I mean, I agree with you, like people don't actually do the homework ahead of time, but they come in very loaded to reject.
Correct.
Without the proper information. And I think ultimately what happened is the dissemination of the information doesn't get to them on time. We do our best, but I'm wondering, should we actually be more innovative by creating a different approach to share information ahead of time prior to those town meetings?
Right.
Besides what you're doing, right?
I think we've attempted to do that on a pretty consistent basis. All the budget meetings, as I just mentioned. And I'm talking about 4 out of 5 towns showed up, really not a lot of input. I'm hoping all 5 towns show up next time to provide ample input and understand where we're coming from with a budget. So they do have that. Whether they voice that at the town meeting, if they understand it and understand our challenges, if they voice that at the town meeting is a whole different issue.
Right.
And we've had times when they did voice it and times when, it was just passed over. And if you take a look at the vocational schools, I mean, their cost per student is what, like 4,000 or 5,000 more than ours, right? I mean, so.
Yeah, the
It's not-
agricultural schools are $30,000.
Right, because I think it's the volume, I guess.
We get the bigger piece of the
Right.
pie, right?
Like
So
it's how big that.
The big
number
pie.
is compared to the
Right.
hotel.
And then also you get the superintendent and then committee members at select boards, FinComs during this process throughout as well. So there are other opportunities for involvement to get that information, learn from it, and not be loaded for bear on a May or June meeting.
Right.
And then, just as you talk about vocational, I mean, we've seen it in Barry, this goes right through. The vote goes right through, but not a problem. But over the years, there have been contentious because there could be an agricultural student who wants to go. And then you get people that realize, well, I don't want to pay for this. And then you get the selectmen, and then you got the lawyers that say, you really don't have the choice. They have a right to this. It does come through, it's a cost, but we're gonna have to work through this. We're gonna have to work it. Because years ago, even Maureen had to go to Supreme Court, to a Superior Court because a town refused to pay. And Barry, I think it was Barry, and the judge said, get out there, make it work, or it'll be a different story in here. You got it work, but.
Yeah.
So Mark, thank you.
Botox, like.
When you say 30%
Student.
Pathfinder, that's probably like, what, 5 kids?
Like a 5-student increase on top of what you typically send would be my guess.
No, I know who they are. I can.
Oh, okay.
Who they are.
Mr. Moncor, though, I do want to say,
Yeah.
I don't know, Stacy, if you're the one or Allison who mentioned this, but I think I heard, is there one school that puts their budget in the newspaper?
Actually, Dr. Allen gave
Oh.
me the newspaper, it was a newspaper from the town he had made. That they actually sent out a mailing that looked like a newspaper and it had their budget in there and it went to every townsperson, regardless of whether you had children or not.
So, I definitely think we're open to new ideas, things like that. I think that we've gotten way better. Well, I hope. I mean, I know what you're saying, Mark, but I think we've gotten way better getting to the FinCom and the select boards. I think where we don't get are sort of townspeople. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and I think they depend on their select board and their FinCom.
I think you're right.
Do their job.
Well, I think they're waiting for their recommendation.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
I do agree with you.
it usually is not favorable to the schools because
We're the biggest nut.
we're the biggest piece of the pie.
And I think the thing is, if we're gonna consider sending someone out, like something out to the whole population of all 5 towns, is to consider it as like, hey, this is gonna be your sticker shock, right? But here's what we're doing with that money, because I think there's a significant amount of people who are just like, why are we spending this much money on our kids? And they don't see what we're actually doing. They don't see how we're cutting where we need to keep that.
I mean, we have really talented students in our innovation pathway that I believe could create beautiful flyers and things like that. So I don't know if that's a little committee you want to form.
Well, I mean, in essence, it's really to showcase what are we doing because they see a big budget and then they see the funding enrollment. And in their mind, naturally, we're like, oh, well, nothing's happened. When in fact, we're actually doing great work. There's success, the money is needed. We have great staff. Ultimately, this is gonna be a problem for the next, I don't know, 10 years, because
We're working to get our agricultural program.
as our small town decline with basically the different population, I don't think we're getting enough people with kids moving into our town, right? So in essence, we're gonna face this year after year, year after year. So we might as well just start looking at different ways to communicate the information along the way.
And I think as far as Hardwick goes, I think one of the biggest challenges getting actual parents who have kids in the school
Right.
to attend these meetings. A lot of the meetings
time.
I see, it's a lot of retired folks
Right.
who
It's an
don't
older count, I think.
necessarily want to make that commitment with the same kind of passion that parents who have kids in the schools do. So I
Well, they're concerned about their finances, quite
right, and
honestly.
especially in
Right.
Hardwick, we don't even have a police station in town, we don't have our own ambulance, so then when we talk about the school. These older folks in particular, I feel like are thinking more about that. And I think it's just imperative that we get the parents who then find out about this later and are irate. We've got to get the parents at the meetings to
I
represent their
agree, and
concerns.
I think, when I started in the committee many years ago, you did see that at town meeting a lot more. Were parents involved, and I think they are spread thin now, and
They are.
we're not getting the information, obviously.
And I feel like a lot of parents are saying, oh, I wish I had known.
Mhm.
I would, especially with the boiler in Hardwick, I think we're getting a lot of parents saying, hey, what's going on? How could that possibly be? How could you not vote to replace our boiler? And it's crazy, but we need them there at the.
We send out an
Dr.
email
Allen?
to
But
all
didn't it go to a
parents
vote in
about.
Hardwick about the boiler? No?
It did and it did not.
Yeah, it didn't pass. Dr. Allen?
Yeah, building on some of the things you're saying, I wonder if this could be a PTO agenda so that I think we have a PTO in all of the schools. If they could have this as an agenda item where
School council.
so it comes from the parents to the parents, by the parents, so to speak. And we could provide the information or the support or be their honored speaker or something of that ilk, if that might be a way to get at what you guys are talking about.
I am more than happy to do that, and I did attempt that last year with mixed success, but I'm happy to do it.
I will say the town that I reside in, we have struggled immensely with the budget, and I'm pretty active at town meetings and because I know what's going on, so I'm pretty privy to it. Last year, we were facing a ton of teacher cuts, and the school rallied really hard to get the community involved. We started a Facebook group, Save Our Schools. It was this big SOS campaign. We were selling shirts. And we packed the town meetings, packed it so heavily that there was no standing room. And our gym teachers actually volunteered at nighttime, and we set up the gym for all the students or all the kids to be watched. And
Done that
it was
too, yeah.
full. It was full every single meeting, and it wasn't just one, it was multiple meetings, and they held sub meetings to be prepared for the big meetings. So everybody was educated, they knew what they were advocating for, and we were able to save a ton of teaching positions. And it was moving to watch this at the town meeting and hear people speak. And it was honestly all social media. A lot of it was social media driven, and I've never seen so many educated people on the budget before, and the budget documents were running all over Facebook. And I mean, I was commenting, I was educating people myself. So I don't know about our footprint on social media. I haven't seen too much of it, but maybe that's where we need to go. And
I think so.
a lot of people aren't really checking their emails too much. It's a lot of social media. So maybe that's where we need to hit a little bit harder.
What town is that?
Town was it?
Munson.
Munson. But you also raise another very interesting point. Maybe we start with the children. And we have them bring their parents to a meeting. Now, that would need to be finessed, obviously. But that might be a way if we finance was one of the things, Colleen, that you had, personal finance or something of that ilk. Maybe we could have a little segment on that and the school budget or the town budget as a for instance. And that way, the parent, the children, and then part of their opportunity is to bring their parents to a PTO meeting of some ilk.
Not only that, too, we have the rural schools and the small communities piece that's impacting the monies, along with the hold harmless. So this is all culminating at the same time.
We need,
So
we need
I think we
voices
need
at the
more
state
voices,
level anyway.
as well as what it really means to the town and to the district. So, yeah, I think.
People are angry, but they're uneducated and they don't know how to advocate for themselves, other than they see their taxes go up, but they don't understand why. And so they can't go to the state level and they don't really know how to express their anger because they don't know where it's deriving from. So maybe hosting small meetings like that to educate people where Chapter 70 comes from and why it's where the foundation breaks down would help a lot of people. I know personally, my parents have absolutely no idea what's going on. And so I've dragged them to every town meeting and I'm like, you hate seeing your taxes come up, sit with me, I'll tell you everything. So every time something happens, I explain it to them, and now they go to all of them, even without me.
You're right.
And they educate people next to them, and it's just this ripple effect, but people are intimidated. People are uncomfortable with what they don't know. So maybe
Another
that's
part
what
of-
we need to do is educate.
Yeah, another part of that could be outreach to your legislators.
Which we do, and we'll do that again and go.
And push the parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, through the parents.
To the parents. And that's where people are talking, how to do that.
Yeah, and Colleen, if we have kids who need volunteer hours, who want to run some child activities during town meeting.
Yeah, actually, when I went to the PTO meeting in Barry, for strategic planning, we actually talked about this and they're like, get us some NHS kids and we'll all come. So as long as you give them something to do.
We need to do something, okay?
Yeah, it just gets to be a late night, so
But
you
I-
have to hope we get on early.
I think we need to do it soon because quite honestly, to your point, nobody comes to our meetings. Usually that was a great turnout at this one and typically when the towns do come, they just want to see our bottom line number and what their assessment's gonna be. And we struggle because we want them to be part of the whole process and understand it. So we can't get them to really participate yet. So maybe if we can educate the parents to get them,
Yeah.
get more involved, maybe that could be the key. But I think you're right about the social media. I've thought that for a while. It's a lot to maintain. It's a liability. You're gonna have, good people watching that page, but it's absolutely you just watch your town pages. People don't know how to look up or even Google even sometimes. It's like everybody just goes to Facebook. If you got something on your mind, you throw it out there and ask it there because that's where all the answers apparently lie.
So Mark, we're gonna have to get on this.
Get a social media campaign.
All right, thank you, Mark. Collect. Okay.
I just have a question.
Oh, yes, Peg,
What's the
sorry.
process with the kids going to Pathfinder or Monty Tech? When do they have to apply? When is their decision made?
It's different for each of the schools and they hold their lotteries at different times. Jess probably knows some of them off.
All I know off the top of my head is Smith right now. Smith and like Norfolk.
Norfolk,
So
yeah.
Smith has to have their paperwork into us before April 1st. And then I think they start making decisions around April 14th. And Norfolk was.
They actually had until April 1st to apply, but they ran their lottery Wednesday.
Live lottery.
Were any of ours applying there?
One from Ocam.
Yeah, potentially two for New Braintree and one for New, okay.
For agricultural schools.
Agricultural.
That doesn't include Monty Tech and
Exactly.
Pathfinder. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But they accept, I know we get Pathfinder and Monty Tech acceptances even over the
I
summer.
was wondering, yeah.
Yeah.
It continues like a
Mhm.
rolling.
I think because they're on a wait list and
Yeah.
someone may decide not
Yep.
to go.
Or they went somewhere
Another
else.
space opens up.
Yep.
Yeah, because I think our guidance offices wanted the eighth graders to turn in their applications to them like before winter break.
Mm.
So that they could get all the information over to the tech.
Now with Smith, do they look at kids? I mean, do they?
So the new lottery system has some interesting, so we had to do a middle school, you probably remember, I presented you a middle school pathway plan back in the fall. And so basically, we have to agree to share certain student information with the vocational schools. We also have to agree to allow them on our campus to present their programs to our students. But now with the lottery system, so what they were trying to get rid of was this idea of screening kids, if you will, before they accepted them. So, but the vocational schools fought back and said, that's all, well, they said, we don't do that. But here is what matters to us. We don't want to take in students who don't want to be here. We want students who want to come here for the right reasons. And so the things we want to look at are if they submit a letter of interest or why they want to attend, they get an extra ticket in the lottery. If they have a certain number of absences, less than whatever, they get an additional ticket in the lottery. So there are things that they've done. If they visit the campus, they get an additional ticket in the lottery. So.
But that's a game,
Yeah.
right?
It's a lottery game.
Yeah.
Okay, stay tuned. Collective bargaining?
Yeah, we had a strategy meeting today amongst the group and we have a plan timeframe of the hopefully after.
And there's nothing on building the grounds policy, student services, anything yet? Okay. No unfinished business. Is there anybody for public comment?
No.
School committee comment? Please.
Yeah, I'll come up with works here. I just want to relate an interesting article, and we were talking about AI, and it seems to be. And so there was a interesting situation at Wayland High School where the English department decided that the students will be doing all their in-class stuff as handwriting assignments. And when the parents found, or some parents found this out, they were very concerned over that because, as this mother said, my kids haven't written. I've never seen them handwrite at all. And so they went to the chair of the English department to give us an explanation. And he went through an explanation, but he pointed out, one thing he pointed out there was a study. And it was done by researchers at the MIT Media Lab showing the impact of GPT on critical thinking abilities. Students from Greater Boston universities were divided into 3 groups and asked to write essays using one of 3 methods, GPT, Google search, or brain only. Consequent EEG scans revealed that the GPT group had the lowest brain engagement and, quote, consistently underperformed at neuro-linguistic and behavioral levels, unquote. The study concluded that the over-reliance on AI tools can affect our ability to think critically, learn, and retain information. And so the article segued into, writing skills and how that would change things and, encourage non-chat GPT or AI stuff. And in her research, she found out that cursive instruction was dealt a blow nationwide in 2010 when it was left off the Common Core state standards for K through 12 education. In Massachusetts, the English Language Arts and Literacy Curriculum Frameworks adopted in 2017 recommends that public school students should be able to sign their names in cursive by 4th grade. That's where we're standing. So she ends the article, and once again, as a parent, you kind of feel this stuff. It's like, she said, I might not have appreciated the urgency, but hadn't been for a recent phone call from one of my sons, now a sophomore at Providence College. He was about to head into a general ethics exam, which his professor said would be handwritten. How are you going to do on it? I asked nervously. His handwriting can be hard to decipher. I don't know, he confessed. I'm worried I'll run out of time. I wish you knew how to write cursive, I told him. Yeah, he replied, so do I. So kind of an interesting juxtaposition of AI, the tsunami of AI, et cetera. And it's like, maybe we should start kids in cursive because they'll think better.
Well, Mark and I went to the National Honor Society induction a couple of months ago. But what we noticed was the kids, when they were signed, they had to sign a book. And most of them held it.
Yes, you commented on this.
You know, there were two, we noticed there were two that held them like we all.
Right, we would do.
But most of the time in their fists. So I asked my daughter, who's, she's got a teenager, I said, does he sign it? She said, oh, he uses the regular way. So I don't know how common that is, but it was really, it kind of struck us when we.
It did. I also counted, there were only two lefties. I watched for, and two people signed it, the way they had to move the book and that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, but you're absolutely right. Cursive got dropped off.
It's our secret code.
Listen, there's a solution. I mean, I think our school is doing well. I mean, my kids will be out being learned in school.
Yeah, we do handwriting.
We do handwriting.
So we do this. So just for the record.
They don't keep it up though, and my kids.
No, you're right
like,
about
they
that, Deb.
couldn't read the cards or anything, you
Yeah.
know? So many relatives had such beautiful handwriting, my kids, they hold it for a minute, put it down there.
There are people that had their grandparents write them letters. They couldn't read them.
Yeah.
Oh, in the time capsules.
Yeah.
So I have two rules. When my kid actually do something they're supposed to do, I tell them to write me a couple, 200 lines of things. They practice the writing like that. When they want something from me, I want to convince me. I need them to write me a letter. So that's how we keep it going.
I love it. I love it.
Have the parents do it. So it's insane.
We'll put that in the flyer on social media. Also, teach your kids cursive.
I will tell you, I was in a freshman English class on Tuesday and they were all working on a writing prompt and there was a girl in the back of the room and she had her notepad and she was writing and writing and writing and writing. And at first I thought, oh, her battery must have went dead on her computer. But it didn't. She said, I prefer to write. And the teachers, if they want to write in their handwriting, the teachers are allowing them to write. So I felt like that was a positive. One out of however many were in that class, but.
That's a good article.
She's a critical thinker.
Yes, yeah.
Any other school committee comments? See, okay. New business, we have, there's no executive session. And new business is a request for approval for DECA overnight field trip to Boston, March 12th to the 14th. DECA State Conference Competition, invitation by school band. You have in your packet, and it was also on, in the drive, the outline. So is there a motion for approval? Dr. Allen?
So approved with the usual provisos.
Second.
And Lee with the second?
With the usual.
Any further comment, question?
I have a little comment.
No problem.
They're gonna have to park, I worked right in that area for 30 years. There's not a lot of parking there. The parking garages, they have some of them have a low roof. So if they're gonna have the van, I hope they know how high the vans are. Because they may not fit in every parking garage. Plus, it's gonna be $40 at least to park. That's all.
So put a sticker there of what the height is.
Yeah, on the sheets and stuff, but parking's probably gonna be 40 a day.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous. And appointment of Allison, am I saying it right? Pelliser? Pelliser and Kevin Clark as Chief Procurement Officers for the Quabbin Regional School District.
So move.
Is there any discussion? I don't think we need. I think we know what procurement was about and everything else. Think we're good on that?
Are they certified or trained or?
Both have full certification.
Full certified, yeah. And now they'll be representing of the district. All in favor? Opposed? And abstentions? Unanimous. And no request for executive session, a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second and adjourn.
So
Good evening.